Every day when you log into ChumbaCasino.com, the ultimate online social casino, you get a free daily bonus. Imagine if you got daily bonuses in other parts of your life.
I chose French fries over loaded French fries.
I asked Stuart from accounting about his weekend, even though I don't care.
I updated my operating system without having to call tech support.
Collect your free daily bonus at ChumbaCasino.com now. And live the Chumba life. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
In Tennessee, a man at a gas station fights back against a carjacker and wins. In New York, a fight on the third floor leads to a man getting tossed out a window. And in Alabama, a former ex-con is in trouble again with charges including the murder of his ex. These stories and more coming at you today, Monday, September 11th, on Real Life Real Crime Daily, and I'm Jim Chapman.
I'm Woody Overton.
And I'm Mike Agovino, and it is 9/11 once again, guys.
Yes.
Never forget, right?
Never forget. And before we get into the crime time for today, we thought it'd be interesting to go around the room and just kind of talk about where we were and what we experienced on that day.
Interesting, and never forget all
That's
the people
right.
that died and the heroes that ran in the buildings and everything else. But where were you, Jim?
So for me, I was at that time working for a friend of mine who owned a health food store, and we sold health supplements, smoothies, all those sort of things. I believe I was 24 at the time. And I remember a customer coming in, and the customer said, "Have you heard on the news?" This is prior to texting, really. Text existed, but it wasn't a common thing. I told him that I hadn't, been busy. And he said, "Man, a plane hit the World Trade Center." And as soon as he left, I turned on the radio and they had coverage of it. And as they were talking is when the second plane hit. Yeah. So as soon as that happened, I immediately called my wife, who was also at work. And I said, "Have you heard about these?" She said, "Yeah, I heard about a plane hitting." I said, "No, another plane hit." And I think it was, for me, the realization of a terrorist situation was when the second plane hit. Yeah. When the first plane hit, I thought somebody screwed up. When the second plane hit, it was like a ton of bricks. We're under attack. And then, of course, from there, you heard about the plane crashing in the Pentagon and also the plane that went down in the field in Pennsylvania. And it was just a shocking day all around.
Yeah, I remember it. I was 31 and I was working in uniform patrol, and I had worked the night shift. But I was living in Albany, and we had to get our unit serviced all the way up in Watson. Perry Russian had the contract with the sheriff's office. So I was driving all the way across the parish, and I was listening to Kid Craddock in the morning, and they were doing their usual stick, and they said, "Hey, y'all, a plane just hit the World Trade Center." And I was thinking, a small plane or whatever. I was in an accident, et cetera. So I pull up, however many minutes later, to Perry's, to the garage up in Watson, and I get out and I walk in the waiting room, and they have the TV on, and I didn't realize that the first building was on fire, but I saw the plane coming in, and I think that they're showing a replay, but it wasn't. It was the second plane, and I saw it hit the tower, and it's just absolutely. I left and went home and watched the coverage the rest of the day, probably like the rest of the nation, but you got a more personal story, right, Aga?
Well, I was living still in New York at the time. We had actually moved out of Manhattan the year before, so we were living up in the suburbs in a town called Rye up in Westchester, and my memory of the day is unbelievably vivid. So this may take a couple minutes, but I think you guys will like this. I think you'll appreciate hearing it. When even here in Louisiana or California, when I was there are so many nice days in a year that a single day in a year doesn't stand out to you because of its weather. But in New York, you maybe have 10 days in a year that are 10 out of 10s. Right. And this day was so striking because it was crystal clear, beautiful, 72, 74 degrees. It was as clouds. Gorgeous a day as you could possibly have. And so I drove in. I didn't take mass transit. So my drive was about an hour. So I got in the car about 6:15 in the morning to drive down to the city. Normal drive, no issues. I get to the office about 7:15, 7:30. I'm in my office, and every morning, just about every morning, at about 9 o'clock back then, there would be team meetings in the conference room. We had a pretty large staff and big conference room, and meetings at 9. And most of the time, I wouldn't participate in those meetings, but this particular morning, I was not scheduled to participate in the meeting. But I heard somebody come running down the hall, and my office was right next to the conference room. And a lot of people had already assembled in the conference room, and they were there having coffee. And somebody came running down the hallway. I don't remember who it was, and they yelled, "A plane just hit the World Trade Center." And there was a big TV in the conference room, so we turned on the TV to the Today Show, which back then that was the dominant news program. I mean, it had 5 times the ratings of any other show. It was back when it was Katie Couric and Matt Lauer, and we turned that on. And my first memory is that, even though my office is at 55th in between 6th and 7th, which is like 4 miles from downtown where the Trade Center is, and so even though you're there, there's a feeling like you're distant. Right. You're not seeing it on the ground, but the buildings are so massive that all these New York City traffic copters are now hovering around the buildings and showing you the hole in Tower 1 that was burning, and nobody had a feel for how large the plane was. And so my first memory is everybody thinking this was a private plane, not a commercial plane. And then as the newscast went on and they started getting more and more information, a lot of it wrong, by the way, it started to become clear that it was a larger fire, a larger hole, and then I think it was like 17 or 18 minutes after the first plane hit, which was at 8:46 a.m. Mm-hmm. The second plane comes in, and there is no mistaking what has gone on, because the view of the second plane is you see it make a very direct turn right into Tower 2 and this massive explosion. And at that moment, I don't think anybody in the room, and still as I remember the news, I don't remember anybody saying terrorism right away, or certainly not bin Laden's name or anything like that. It was just shock, and then as the news is feeding in more, and it becomes clear from their perspective that this is likely a terrorist event. And then Bush was down in Florida. He was in Louisiana Air Force Base. No,
well,
that was later
when he heard,
He was at Longboat Key, Florida, at school, reading a book. And I distinctly remember him, his calm demeanor, and how direct he was.
They whispered it in his ear,
and it was the first time it got said, in a absolutely declarative way. There's been a terrorist attack on the United States, and I forget his exact words, but it was something like, "These people will not get away with what they've done to our country," and that carried a lot of weight. But people by this point are crying. Everybody's hugging each other. I had a situation where just 2 years earlier, the guy who was my number 2 in the company had a heart attack in the office and died in my arms. And so we had a situation where the entire staff was grief stricken before, And because if you lived there and you grew up there, there's no way you didn't know somebody, most people knowing a number of people that worked either in the towers or in one of the other Trade Center buildings, which were much smaller, or right in that surrounding area. And the visuals that were coming in were making it really clear that this was having an impact in the entire area. But it never occurred to me. I never heard anybody speak about a potential collapse prior to it happening. And when the first, which was actually the second tower, crumbled first, when it crumbled, there was just an unbelievable feeling of like you could hear the screams of thousands as the building was going to the ground, 110-story, just something that symbolized the strength of New York, the strength of the country, America. You could see that thing from everywhere. You were 50 miles away from the city. If you were at any kind of elevation, you could look on a clear day and see those towers. There's just such a indelible symbol of New York that when it collapsed, the first one collapsed, everything took another turn. It just made it that much harder. And the city was now in lockdown. So they shut all the bridges and tunnels. The major ones, you couldn't get out or you couldn't get in from any of the major bridges. And so we spent a good deal of time making sure our people all had places to stay. If they, like a lot of people lived in the city and could get home, but for people that lived outside of the city, making sure they had someone to stay with or getting them a hotel room or what have you. It so happened that where we lived, you could get home by going over one of these small bridges over the Harlem River. Like people don't realize from the northern tip of Manhattan to the Bronx is less than 100 yards in the Harlem River. So there are all these little bridges, the 3rd Avenue Bridge, 155th Street, the Willis Avenue Bridge, that cross over the Harlem River and you can get home. And so once I knew the staff was okay, we closed the office and I headed down to the garage and grabbed my car. And I came out 6th Avenue. And if you've been in New York, spent any time there, I'm heading uptown on 6th Avenue, and it's only 4 blocks until I hit Central Park South, leaving from where my office was. And as I'm at that corner, I am seeing all of these people. I mean, 4, 5, 6, 8 deep on either sides of the street that are just covered in soot. People that had no other way to get uptown than to walk after they're
trying to get away.
After they're just, and it's like out of a zombie movie. It's an apocalyptic scene. They're all covered in this stuff. And I'm alone in a Chevy Tahoe. And so a guy just looks at me and says, "Can I have a ride?" And I said, "Sure, jump in," and unlocked the door for him. And right when I did that, a number of other people noticed that I had done it, and they came rushing to the car. So I filled the car up. In fact, filled it so much that I had, I think, 4 people on, because it had running boards on so you could stand, and we lowered the window so they could hold onto something inside the car. So I think I had 12 people and we were moving so slowly that it wasn't dangerous to do what we were doing. And these people had walked so far and had been through so much.
They're trying to get away.
So there I cross Central Park South and enter what's called the Park Drive, and you're able. It's like a highway inside of Central Park. So you're away from the buildings and the numbered streets, and you're able to go 40 blocks, 50 blocks up, riding through the park. And so I'm riding through the park with these people, and most everyone is either silent or crying. No one's talking. And we get to about 90th Street, maybe 86th or 90th, and there are ways out of the park at both of those slots, and there are people who who could get home going that way. So people got off, and at that point, it was only folks in the car now. And I introduced myself, and then other people introduced themselves. So we now had names, and we continued on up through the park. And what I was looking to do was get over the Willis Avenue Bridge. I get over the Willis Avenue Bridge, and so now I'm in the Bronx, and there's an expressway. It's called the Deegan Expressway, which is on a normal day as busy as any of these highways, freeways around New York City. And at that particular point, it's actually elevated a little bit. And so I looked through the rearview mirror in the truck, and I could see, again, this was this perfectly clear blue sky day, something that never happens in New York, and these two plumes of smoke coming out of downtown that were being blown to the southeast were coming up almost intact, like almost in the shape of the towers. And I stopped the car. There's no one on the road. It was a highway, but there was no one on the road, because unless you could do what I was doing, coming from Manhattan over Willis Avenue and then going, there was no one coming across the George Washington Bridge or the Triborough. That was the only way you could be where we were. I stopped. All of us got out of the car and stared at this, and it was as if the ghosts of the Twin Towers were ascending into that's what it looked like. And we all just sat there crying, hugging each other, watching this. I don't know, we were probably there 5 minutes, but in my mind, it feels like it was 30, it was. So we get back in the car, and I get everyone to tell me where they live and figure out a route to get everybody at least close to home or home along the way. And I finally get home. My wife had tried to get into the city and had been turned away. So she came in late that day, was trying to come in late that day for whatever reason, and they'd already shut the city off. And so she had to go back home. So she was already home. I guess I got home about 2:00. Cell service was, I kept trying to call people that I was worried about and couldn't get through to anybody, and was starting to get just really worried about my brother-in-law, really worried about my cousin and some high school friends. And I walked in the door, and the first thing that I'm greeted with is we were sharing a nanny with another family. So X number of days she was with us, X number of days she was with them. She was with us on that day, and I didn't know them, the other family well. I met them, but right when I get in, it's the nanny that greets me to tell me the husband in the other family is dead. Wow. That's the first thing, and so she's hit with that. I finally get through to my mother, and my mother tells me that my cousin Beth's husband, who ironically was not supposed to be working that day, who was a firehouse captain in Brooklyn, came in when he heard about what happened and went into Tower 1 and died in Tower 1. A month later, we'd find out that Beth was pregnant. Wow. With his child. His name is Terry. The daughter's name is Terry after him. And I just saw her back in New York in June. And just the second you lay your eyes on her, it brings everything back. And so those couple of days and the learning about who was okay and who wasn't okay, and then all of because it's like the 6 degrees of separation thing. It's, I only had 4 people that were more than acquaintances of mine that we lost that day, but I had all kinds of people that were connected in different ways. So all of that news is coming in. You're not going to work. The office is closed. Basically, the country was closed. Air travel's closed off. And I don't know how many days later it was, but it was Bush again throwing out the pitch. I don't know if you guys remember that, when he went to Yankee Stadium. Was it Yankee or Shea? I think it was Yankee. It might have been Shea because Mike Piazza hit a big home run that was it was Shea. And it was a president throwing out a pitch, and most of the time when any celebrity throws out a pitch, it ends up 20 feet over the catcher's head or in the dirt, or I think 50 Cent threw one a couple months ago that was in the dirt after about 5 feet, and Bush threw a strike. Yeah. And between that game was the symbol of, okay, now it's time to get back to work. It's time to pick ourselves up and to fight back. And by then, Bin Laden's name was a household name, and people like Bush, like Crazy Rudy, who at that time was still sane and was a good mayor in New York, were really providing incredible leadership. And so it all affected me. It affected everybody that lived there in the city, that experienced it on the ground. And then, to me, it was the experience I had with that group of people, none of whom know me by anything other than Mike, who had the Chevy Tahoe, and by their first names. But that shared experience of looking back down and seeing those plumes of smoke going, I'll just never, ever forget that.
Powerful, bro. Then never forget it, period, right? All the people that died and all the heroes that day, and just one thing it did was bringing the country together. Remember American flags everywhere?
Man, I
can't believe it's been 20-something years.
Such a huge thing. I actually wrote down, because I should read this one little thing to have it. Yeah. So the 9/11 Commission, which was a commission of 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats that worked together. The thing is a huge volume. It's like 500 pages of what they did. But the very opening, the preface, they wrote, "We hope that the terrible losses chronicled in this report can create something positive, an America that is safer, stronger, and wiser. That September day we came together as a nation. The test before us is to sustain that unity of purpose and meet the challenges now confronting us." And man, are we failing miserably at doing that as a country. And I said to my son last night, and I would recommend this to any your grandkids or anyone who was less than 5, 6 years old back in 2001, is go on YouTube and watch the actual coverage from that morning. I know the whole Today Show is on there. I'm sure others are as well. And watch that with your kid or your grandkid, because they're going to understand something that they don't understand right now.
Yeah. Hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement. It's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdown scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids, to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Well,
you want to get in some crime time?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. A repeat carjacker has been taken down by an owner of a muscle car in Tennessee. This armed 18-year-old approached a man at a Tennessee gas station and demanded his Dodge Charger. The man fought back, and Memphis police say he managed to hold down the would-be carjacker until officers arrived and arrested him. The man was charged in connection with the attempted carjacking on September 3rd and another carjacking on August 31st. The 18-year-old was still wearing a ski mask when he pulled up to a gas station in Memphis on September 3rd. He pointed a gun at the owner of the Charger and demanded the car. As the suspect was about to get in the car, its owner grabbed him and a physical confrontation ensued over the handgun. The gun went off during the struggle and struck the inside of the car. Eventually, police said the owner of the car managed to get a hold of the handgun and held the 18-year-old on the ground until police arrived and arrested him. When the man was arrested, he told police he had taken part in another carjacking just a few days earlier. On August 31st, that 18-year-old and another man approached the owner of a Nissan Rogue and demanded the car and her belongings. The 18-year-old grabbed the woman's iPhone and pressed the gun to her head, telling her to move away from the car. The other man got in the passenger seat, and the 18-year-old got in the driver's seat, and they drove away. The woman later picked that 18-year-old out of a lineup. And so some good news for once involved in a carjacking, and that is someone stood up and thank God that person was able to handle this kid and because that was a loaded gun, went off and everything.
Right. So. I say about these punks, get a fucking job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No doubt about it.
Get a job. And let's go back to, well, let's go to Rochester, New York. And a man was charged with murder after police alleged that he severely beat a 65-year-old man and then threw him out of a third-floor window. Damian Young, 38, is accused of attacking Angel Lopez, 65, in their shared apartment building early Thursday morning. Lopez initially landed on a second-floor fire escape before falling onto the pavement where he died from his injuries. Young was arrested Thursday and taken to Rochester General Hospital under a mental hygiene law. He is currently in custody in Monroe County Jail. And as of Friday, Wham TV reported that Rochester police had been unable to locate any of Lopez's relatives in the aftermath of the incident. Young appeared in court on Saturday and pleaded not guilty. And y'all check it out. He requested to represent himself. A judge denied the request and remanded to jail without bond. And according to the New York State Sex Offender Registry, Young is a level 2 registered sex offender, having served a prison sentence for an attempted abuse, which I'm sure wasn't abuse. They dropped it down in 2006.
All these
crazy, right?
Murdering old people.
I don't get it.
30-something killing a 65?
5-year-old over who knows what. Threw him out of a damn window. What are you going to do?
That had to make him work.
Right?
Well, here's a domestic abuse story that's it's pretty crazy. An Alabama woman who was 8 weeks pregnant was found stabbed inside a fire station where she had been seeking refuge from alleged domestic abuse. So the guys at the firehouse took her in to protect her and take care of her. The man she was hiding from is now under arrest and charged with murder just weeks after he celebrated her pregnancy by writing on social media, "I'm so happy to have you in my life." Her name, Treasure Hennessy, was 37. She was found stabbed to death inside the Fort Mitchell fire station early on Saturday morning. Hennessy had recently been granted permission to stay at the fire station as a, quote, safe house, police said, after moving out of her on and off again boyfriend, his name is Bradley Stokes, residence last month. Stokes was waiting and hiding on her, Russell County Sheriff Heath Taylor said, Sunday, detailing the killing. According to Taylor, Stokes then allegedly tried to hide Hennessy's car in bushes behind a barn across the street before fleeing in his own vehicle. The victim's car was found the next day when local farmers were trimming bushes. Taylor said the police tracked Stokes down to a hotel in Columbus, Georgia, and he was arrested later that day. The Russell County Sheriff's Office said its officers engaged in a short vehicle and foot chase before they were able to detain Stokes. He's charged with capital murder and awaiting extradition to Russell County. Treasure.
That's crazy, man. Sad.
Pregnant.
Young girl.
It's not clear if Stokes has entered a plea yet. He'd just been released from prison in early June after a 16-year sentence for gun violations.
Young girl.
Gun violations and a manslaughter charge.
That's crazy.
So,
she can't.
The victim in that case was his wife. And so how the guy just gets out in June, he went to prison for killing his wife.
16 years. How does he get? She's got to be in her 20s.
She looks young. I don't know. Do they say how old he was? I forget how old he was. Well, I'm going to show you a picture of him in a second.
He did 16 years, so he had to be at least in his mid to late 30s.
Well, shortly after his release, he entered a relationship with Hennessy, and they dated on and off for a couple months. The sheriff's office said they received at least 2 domestic violence reports against Stokes filed by Hennessy in recent months. Stokes posted a collection of photos of himself with Hennessy on Facebook and wrote, "I hope we can work through our relationship problems. I love you and I can't wait to see our baby. I pray that God will bring us back together like we was." Taylor, the sheriff, said the expecting mother moved into the fire station in late August, where Stokes eventually found out she was staying. He hid and ambushed her that morning. He felt like Ms. Hennessy was going to sign a warrant for domestic violence on him, which would violate his probation and send him back to prison. That was his motive for doing this. But look at this.
Yeah, winner.
Unbelievably sad.
Kill it.
A 42-year-old man was arrested last week after standing naked in an apartment doorway and waving at drivers passing by on a busy street because he wanted to spread some love. That's right. Elijah Barker is charged with felony count of possession of methamphetamine and imagine that, and misdemeanor indecent exposure after appearing in a state of nudity, not in a public place, but with intent. Centerville, Indiana police responded to an apartment complex for reports of the naked man masturbating in the doorway. When they arrived, they found Barker front door, curtains open, making it possible for officers to see his entire apartment. He approached the officers at the door and asked if he could put some clothes on. An officer noted in the arrest report, "I advised I would prefer that he did."
Yeah, all right.
So Centerville police officer spoke to Barker about standing naked in public, and he said he believed it was acceptable behavior. He told the police he used meth, but recently stopped. However, he had some meth in his wallet.
Yeah.
So Barker told officers he recently experienced a spiritual awakening and thought he could spread some love by being naked and waving at passersby.
There you go.
Barker's landlord coincidentally filed an eviction notice in August that demanded he be out of the apartment by September 10th. Apparently, our Indiana naked guy couldn't wait that long.
No shirt on and it's
quit
much
being
shot.
good. So yeah,
Put on some boxes.
That looks like
nothing wrong with spreading a little love.
If you looked up naked Indiana guy in the dictionary, there would be a picture of this guy.
him, right?
That's it. I mean,
You know
he
who's
definitely fits the profile.
You know who's upset? His meth dealer, because he's going to be locked up.
Well,
That's
you get those calls too, right?
you go, right.
It ain't always a shooting.
Yep. So now I'm going to take you to another hard one, y'all. Police in Jonesboro, Georgia, shot and killed a 17-year-old boy on Saturday that they said killed a police dog and pointed a gun at officers. The Clayton County Police Department identified the teenager as Stephon Ford, 17 years of age. The events began unfolding just before 2 a.m. Saturday when the Jonesboro Police Department responded to a call of suspicious activity at a motel. Police arrested 2 people, and a K-9 unit from the Clayton County Police Department was used to track a third person to a wooded area. Clayton Police Captain John Ivey said officers gave verbal commands for the suspect to come out, but the suspect fired at officers and struck the police dog. The dog named Moro died of his injuries. About 8 hours later, police found Ford in a wooded area behind a neighborhood. An officer directed Ford to put his gun down and surrender. Evidently, he didn't do it, y'all. The officers fatally shot Ford after he pointed the gun at them. So Assistant Police Chief Bruce Parks said that officers were trying to apprehend Ford, who was suspected of firing a gun to officers and killing a police dog early in the day. The officer shot and killed Ford after he pointed the gun at them. And the overall situation is tragic. We hate it. We never want anything like this to happen, Parks told reporters.
Last week, I reported on the financial state of the cannabis business across the U.S., if you guys remember, talking about how most of these companies weren't making any money, most were losing money. The Department of Health and Human Services has recommended that the DEA now loosen regulations on marijuana at the federal level. The White House is calling for the agency to reclassify marijuana as a Schedule III substance under the Controlled Substances Act. Cannabis is currently classified as a Schedule I substance, which the DEA considers, quote, substances or chemicals with no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. Other Schedule I drugs include heroin, LSD, meth, while drugs like cocaine and fentanyl are classified actually as Schedule II drugs, which means the government considers them to have some kind of legitimate medical purpose, although the risk of abuse is still high, right? So proponents of the legislation have long said that marijuana's Schedule I classification is outdated and out of step with the common sense and called for it to be reclassified. And the White House agrees. So in a letter to the DEA, the HHS Assistant Secretary, Rachel Levine, said that the FDA had completed a comprehensive scientific evaluation of marijuana at the president's directive and concluded its federal classification should be amended. So the DEA is now going to conduct its own review and will likely make a final ruling before the end of the year. A move to Schedule III would put marijuana in the same category as substances like testosterone and codeine and others that the DEA considers to have, quote, moderate to low potential for physical or psychological dependence. So this latest action would be a huge step toward complete federal decriminalization of marijuana. So if the DEA complies with the administration's recommendation, it will have an immediate impact on marijuana businesses operating in the 23 states where cannabis possession is currently legal. As we reported last week, because marijuana is a Schedule I substance, the businesses selling it are currently restricted from most tax exemptions for expenses like salaries and benefits. We said, if you remember, that many of them might be paying as much as 70% overall tax. And so this lifts that burden and allows them to expense, assuming it goes through, all of those things like salaries and benefits and many other things. The Schedule III classification would allow them to immediately begin paying far less in taxes, as I said, and as a result, cannabis-linked stocks exploded on Wall Street over the last few days, with the largest marijuana exchange-traded fund jumping 20% in one day. Wonder how many people in Congress bought them some Mary Jane ETFs in the couple of days before that. The most recent Gallup poll shows that 6 in 10 Americans support pot legalization for recreational use, while nearly 9 in 10 say it should be legal for medical use. The same Gallup poll shows that half of Americans have tried pot at some point in their lives, while only 1 in 6 use it regularly. That's double the rate of a decade ago. And so while it's essentially impossible to overdose on marijuana, there are critics out there who say that doesn't mean it's harmless.
Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glace, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin-baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/reallife. That's GOBBLE.com/real-life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had. Hey, y'all, changing my wardrobe from summer to fall, it's never easy. Luckily, Quince offers timeless and high-quality items I adore, ensuring my wardrobe stays fresh and I don't blow my budget. And there's nothing easier than going to Quince and choosing these high-quality items, like cashmere sweaters from $50, pants for every occasion, washable silk tops, and so much more. The best part? All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes, and I love that. I got the stainless steel Link Apple Watch band for $59.90. It's heavy duty, it's awesome, and it's like $100 less than I could find anywhere else. And I also got a 100% organic cotton fisherman quarter zip up sweater. The color is alabaster. Man, I can't wait to wear that this fall. And Cindy got the Mongolian cashmere boat neck sweater in heather gray. And I'm telling you, these are classic pieces at a fraction of the price. Make switching seasons a breeze with Quince's high-quality closet essentials. Go to quince.com/RLRC for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/RLRC to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/RLRC. You'll thank me later.
Today's weed is much more potent than it was in the past, and I don't know. This is not something I'm feeling very positive about.
All right. Well, crime is so bad in Oakland that a Dodge Charger, which crashed and flipped on its side, had its catalytic converter stolen just minutes later. Matter of fact, instead of people rushing to make sure the people inside the Charger were fine, then calling the police and waiting for a tow truck, witnesses made sure to help themselves to whatever was valuable, whether it was bolted down or not. And there's actually pictures of a gentleman sawing off the catalytic converter with the Charger still on its side.
With people still in the car.
People still in the car.
Oh, my God.
We know this won't shock anyone who's been paying attention to this podcast, as Mike has several times talked about the crime in Oakland. But, you know, just catalytic converters in general, they're becoming a highly theft producing item. As a matter of fact, I had a friend of mine right here in Livingston Parish, Louisiana, park at Bass Pro Shop and, rode with another friend for about an hour and a half, came back and their catalytic converters were gone.
Yeah.
At Bass Pro Shop.
Yeah.
You would, so.
What could a catalytic converter be worth?
It's worth a lot.
It's
been
about
in all the school buses and everything else.
Yeah. It has palladium in it.
Yeah.
And palladium's more valuable than gold. So at any rate, it's becoming a big problem just with that particular theft in general. But it's so bad in Oakland that you're stealing it with the car flipped on its side.
That's an all-time low. That's a new low.
And you just whip the tool out of your pocket and cutting off the catalytic converter, right, or unscrewing it or whatever.
That's it. So I just came across that when I was doing my research and found that just to be absolutely insane.
It is insane. I don't know.
Mike, you spent any time in Oakland when you were in that area?
Yeah. Company Pandora, you guys ever listen to?
Yeah.
Pandora was a big client of mine, and they still are headquartered in Oakland. So I was there fairly often.
Was it always kind of an unsafe area?
There are definitely pockets where, and I'll tell you what, my scariest memories of Oakland are traveling with my son's basketball team to play in tournaments up in Oakland, where you're playing your games in big gang areas, and there are all kinds of fights between parents, a lot of the times moms. It's definitely a scary place.
Well, let me tell you about some more, y'all, crimes in one of your old areas, Mike. A group of bandits broke into more than a dozen homes in ritzy New York City neighborhoods, swiping nearly 10 luxury cars in a cross-borough operation that spanned 3 months. The cars seized stole a Porsche, Mercedes, Range Rover, and other high-end vehicles from driveways in Queens and Brooklyn from June through August, police said. They were still on the loose Sunday night. The gang typically worked in groups of 4 and 3 and targeted homes primarily in the affluent neighborhoods of Whitestone, but also hit houses in Bayside, Jamaica Estates, Holliswood, and Manhattan Beach, and Bay Ridge. They would strike in the early morning hours, often when the homeowners were asleep inside. The gang of thieves first began their crime spree on June 2nd at a home near Point Crescent, but were run out by the homeowner before they could take anything. Later that month, the robbery crew hit 2 other homes, but left empty-handed each time after they were confronted by a homeowner in the first place and were scared off by a security alarm at the second. So they were 0 for 3, y'all, but undeterred. Their next stop on July 21st was more fruitful. They broke into a home near 222nd Street in Queens at 1 a.m. and stole an Audi SUV. And then the following day, 4 of the thieves stole a BMW sedan from a house near the 291st Street in Queens. They struck again the day after that and swiped a Range Rover SUV and Porsche from a home near Cambridge Road in Queens. And again a day later, when they drove away with jewelry, clothes, cash, and a Mercedes-Benz from a home near Ridge Boulevard in Brooklyn. The bandits snatched clothes, a Genesis sedan, and a BMW SUV from other residences in July while fleeing from other homes empty-handed after the home alarm system went off. Their last known burglary was on August 2nd, and car thefts have surged by roughly 19% year over year, according to NYPD crime data.
So they're still on the loose.
They're still on the loose, and the NYPD is asking for anyone, any information to call.
Wow, that's a lot of...
Get a job. Get a job. Leave these but go get your own shit.
That's right.
I think they'd say to you that they got a job and it pays well and they're
crime don't pay,
not getting a lot of resistance.
Oh, yeah, crime does kind of pay, I guess. Yeah. But evidently they're graduating in their thievery skills.
You can now take off that belt and move freely around the cabin.
It is Mile High Crime time. And look, I may have the best Mile High Crime I've ever come across.
There you go. And lay it on us.
We brought you on Friday a story about a girl who
she had a bomb.
Beat the crap out of. We're talking about the romper stop.
The toilet.
Yeah, that's right. The porta can.
Y'all gotta watch that video. Jim just showed it to me. It's hilarious.
So what? Yes, in the video was required to really grasp, how crazy that is. Well, this is another story that. These cell phone cameras, man, they're everywhere. They're looking at you. And, of course, anytime anything crazy goes down, people are grabbing them cell phones. So we're going to introduce you to someone today, and we're going to introduce you to Amelia Joy. Amelia Joy. She's a crazy lady who went nuts at John Wayne Airport over the weekend when sheriff's deputies pulled up to have a word with her at a wine bar. Amelia... who, according to her website, dabbles in singing and songwriting on the side, proceeded to go into a full rage as cops decided she needed to take a trip to the detention center. With a fellow passenger rolling video, Amelia can be heard telling someone off camera, "You can find me on .com, but I'm trying to switch to .love." Now, that sounds like a line I would use, but she stole that.
She's in custody.
That's it. Now, after a woman sitting at the bar tries to intervene to calm down Amelia, who's holding a glass of water, deputies figure that's about the time she needs to be taken down before an innocent bystander gets rocked upside the head with a glass or something. So she starts telling the police as they're handcuffing her, "Kiss me. Tell me I'm fucking hot."
Oh, no.
She screams at one of the deputies before spitting on him and trying to kick him in the balls.
Oh, my God.
She then says, "Tell me I'm fucking sexy."
Oh, my God.
Yes, Amelia screams as a crowd at the wine bar gasp. "You're going to break my wedding ring," she says, "and I've never been married." Now, figure that one out. Let me quote that again. Right. "You're going to break my wedding ring, and I've never been married."
That's crazy.
I don't know. Only she knows what that meant. But Amelia continues as the cuffs are being applied. Now, this chick, when you see this video, is so crazy. She reminds me of Aaron Rodgers just before he goes off on like a trip to Costa Rica, whatever it is, Costa Rica, yeah. And he's smoking ayahuasca or drinking it or whatever they do with that, or whatever the cool kids are doing. I mean, this chick is hippie now. Yeah. She is hippie.
I can definitely say it wasn't the $12 wine.
Yes.
That's wine I got her.
I have some audio I'm going to play of her little confrontation with the police. It's about 45 seconds long, so you can hear her in her own words.
I'm not. They said I'm mad. And my children love me. They're going to break my wedding ring, and I've never been married. This is exactly what has been happening. That's exactly what has been happening. So who's the head honcho here? You tell me. Come on, kiss me. Kiss me. And tell me who's the head honcho here. What, I'm not hot enough for you? I'm not hot enough? I'm not sexy enough? I'm gonna spit on you. Tell me I'm fucking hot. Tell me I'm fucking sexy. Tell me. Now control hold. Oh, animal control. Because I look like a mad woman and you're gonna break my bones? You're gonna break my bones, security? Security's gonna break my bones to get me to fucking shut up? What are you doing to me? What are you doing to my dad? What are you doing to me? What are you doing to my dad?
Absolutely out of this world. And that's your Mile High Crime for today.
You can now take off that belt and move freely around.
She's crazy. This chick is crazy.
Unreal.
Yes.
Time for Kinky Crimes for Monday. 2 people were arrested after police say they were caught performing a sex act in an Oklahoma City Sonic, right? Andrea Kennedy, 28, and John Chitty, 35, were arrested at the area Sonic. Employees of the restaurant called police after observing Kennedy perform oral sex on Chitty while they were parked at one of the restaurant stalls.
Hey.
The two had just left a Florida-Georgia Line concert at the Choctaw Grand
That
Theater.
explains the whole thing.
And police said they appeared to be drunk. Both were arrested and now face indecent exposure complaints. And that is your kinky crime for Monday.
Apparently, Florida Georgia Line sparks a little bit.
Right.
I wonder if they ordered the foot long. I need a foot long coney.
Can I get a foot long?
I don't need that. I already got it.
Remember the one we did where the
that's right. I said it.
The Sonic employee lost his bag of cocaine in the hot dog. Oh my god!
Sonic's got a lot of craziness going on at Sonic.
But if I have to eat fast food and get service, they pretty much never fucked up my stuff.
So that was your kinky crime.
Kinky Crimes for Monday. Thank you.
Well, you haven't heard his name in a while, and I'm sure everybody's been missing him. But he is one of the dumbest criminals of all time.
Lay it on me.
He's our jailed heartthrob and all-Woody team disgraced South Carolina piece of shit, Alex Murdaugh.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
And he's a dumb criminal today because
He's definitely a dumb criminal.
he wants his murder conviction thrown out.
Shocker.
You know why?
Why? Tell us.
He says the local court clerk tampered with the jury. By the way, is there any 12 people across the United States, not with the last name Murdaugh, you could have put on that jury that wouldn't in 3 hours or less have found him freaking guilty?
Nah.
Okay. So we all remember he was sentenced to 2 life sentences for the murders of Maggie and Paw Paw. Right. His attorneys have appealed his murder conviction because they now accuse a woman by the name of Rebecca Hill, who is the Colleton County Clerk of Court, for tampering with the jury. According to his attorneys, Hill was advising them not to believe Murdaugh's testimony and other evidence presented by the defense and pressuring jurors to reach a guilty verdict quickly and misrepresenting critical and material information to the trial judge in her campaign to remove a juror she believed might be favorable to the defense. This is all in a motion for a new trial that was filed by Richard Harpootlian and James Griffin. You remember those brilliant attorneys who got their asses kicked? Ms. Hill did these things to secure for herself a book deal and media appearances that would not happen in the event of a mistrial. The attorneys claim Ms. Hill betrayed her oath of office for money and fame. Hill released a book about Murdaugh's murder trial. It's called Behind the Doors of Justice, The Murdaugh Murders, in late July. That seems like a little bit of a conflict maybe, but jurors deliberated for less than 3 hours before finding Murdaugh guilty of shooting his wife and his son to death, and a fresh look at how he's doing in prison.
I like his haircut.
Shaved head and all of his girlfriends.
At least he has
why did you point out the shaved head?
Yours is much more cleanly shaved. His is messed up.
I've never seen yours like that.
Yeah.
So he maintained and still maintains his innocence in the murders, and rumor is he has hired OJ to find the real killer.
Yeah. Good luck.
Well,
give me some banjos.
Wait, before we do banjos, interesting thing, Buster Murdaugh has a news I guess an interview thing going on Fox News or something like that. Fox, their app.
Yeah, he's done a number of interviews lately.
Have you seen it?
No, I wouldn't waste. I mean, come on.
Wouldn't waste your time. That's Buster Murdaugh.
The only reason I'd watch that is to see if that dumb chick is still with him. I lost that bet.
I was going to say.
I forgot about her. She ain't with him no more. No way, huh? I'm going to watch and get you informed on that.
Dumb.
America needs to know.
America needs to know, yes. Well, we don't have music for our last segment for today, but we're going to say WTF.
What the?
Yeah.
What the F is taking so long on the theme music? Come on.
Woody, you'll appreciate this one. All right. So police in Marion County, Florida, pulled over a 26-year-old Patreon Stokes for speeding this summer. After that, they apparently smelled some marijuana. So they searched his car. They found a bunch of drugs, specifically meth, crack, heroin, and money. So they take him into custody. But when they arrive at the station, the money had vanished. Yeah, it was a short-lived mystery. Money started falling out of his ass.
Oh, my God.
In the form of $20 bills, like he was some kind of gastrointestinal ATM. According to a Facebook post by the Marion County Sheriff's Office, after a necessary but undesirable process for everyone involved, deputies located $1,090 in currency hidden in his ass.
Oh, my God.
Up his rectum. That's right.
$1,090?
Yeah. So he must have had a 10 mixed in there somewhere.
Yeah, right.
I hope it wasn't all ones.
Or pennies.
Yeah.
What are those pennies and nickels?
$1,090, and you can confirm that by going to the Marion County Sheriff's Office Facebook page. We don't make this stuff up, folks. He received.
Wait, isn't that $520 bills?
I don't know.
That's 520. He had $520 bills up his ass. Oh my God,
that's a lot.
Can't be 500, huh?
Well, 500 times 10 would be 5,000.
Yeah,
oh,
1,000.
Okay, he had 50.
Well,
he had 50.
That's still a lot.
That's still a lot.
Sorry.
Yeah.
God,
no less shocking.
I failed my math responsibility. Yeah, that's money that's actually going to need to be laundered.
Yeah, really.
Literally
real,
laundered.
Literally
and
laundered.
that visual body cavity search.
That's right.
Showed something.
And he seems so smart. He was diversifying his business. I mean, he had
who wants to
meth, heroin.
Who wants
That's
to
it.
tag and bag that evidence?
You never know what's going to be hot that day. You want to have a little bit of everything.
That Marion County, that's where Ocala is. There's a lot of bad shit going down over there. I mean, there are some crazy folks in there.
Well, that was a story that I said, what WTF.
That is definitely WTF.
That's it. So we hope everybody takes a moment today and just remembers the families of the people affected by the horrible tragic events of September 11th, 2001.
Yeah. And never forget.
Yeah, that's right. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman.
And I'm Woody Overton.
And I'm Mike Agovino.
For Real Life, Real Crime Daily, peace.
Always remember,